Hello, YouTube. For the first time in his life, Russian scientist and journalist Valentin Psalomshikov encountered what is now called paranormal phenomenon in the late 1950s as a student at the Leningrad Hydrometeorological Institute. Once during the winter holidays, the Department of Physical Education organized 3-day ski trips for those who wished to ski. They were of different difficulty categories, and Psalomshikov signed up for the easiest one, not because of his dislike of skiing, but because of the girl Tanya from his course in the university, in the institute. They almost got to Priozersk by train. They got off at the place where there was a cottage of one of the institute's employees. That's where it was located, and he placed it at the students' disposal. The routes were 1 day, and in the evening, 1 day long. And in the evening, the students returned to their base. The weather was fine, light frost and sunshine. En route, Psalomshikov walked next to Tanya. The main contingents of their group consisted of undergraduate students. The group was led by graduate student Victor. At the afternoon halt, or stop, when the men began to make fire and cook dinner, Tanya, after standing a little near them, went into the forest. The guys realized that she is away about 20 minutes later, when the lunch was ready. Victor, who saw Psalomshikov and Tanya on the route together, asked him to run after her, which Psalomshikov was incredibly happy about, since he was already going to do it himself. He walked along the fresh ski tracks for almost half a kilometer, wondering more and more why the hell she headed there, especially in deep snow. His path was interrupted suddenly. When Psalomshikov was passing by a hefty fir tree, a whole layer of snow melted in the sun, fell on his head, a kind of tiny avalanche. The snow knocked off his hat and glasses, stuffed into his collar. Several minutes passed while he was excavating himself. Psalomshikov had to wipe the glasses with a mitten. It was hard to see, but he saw a couple more of the same treacherous fir trees ahead. He decided to move a few meters to the side and move parallel to Tanya's ski run for a while. The student took a few steps and suddenly plunged into some kind of pit. However, he managed to stay on his feet. Psalomshikov found himself on a small ledge with a height difference of no more than a meter, moreover quite flat. There was a slight slope immediately behind the ledge. The trees were less frequent and the slope ahead was clearly visible, but Tanya was nowhere to be found. He called her several times, to no avail. As Psalomshikov was about to move on, he discovered that Tanya's ski tracks, which had just been nearby a few meters away, suddenly disappeared. Cursing, he climbed back onto the ledge, went out after her ski tracks, took a few steps along it and froze amazed. Immediately after the ledge, the ski tracks ended, or rather there was imprinted what was imprinted on the slope. It was less than the length of the ski. That's it. The thought of the pit disappeared immediately. The trail was as if cut off, and yet he probed the crust around it with a ski stick. Psalomshikov did not find any pit. Even with a lot of acceleration, you can't fly far from such a springboard. But there were no tracks within a radius of 100 meters except for his. Psalomshikov had a starter pistol with him and he fired several times. The sound was loud enough. Snow was falling from the nearby fir trees. A few minutes later, Victor appeared. Psalomshikov intercepted him just above the ledge and explained the situation. Victor walked forward next to Tanya's trail, looked at it himself, and uttered the traditional Russian cursing word. They stood there for a while. What if Tanya heard the shots that they fired? Then they quickly went back to raise the group to do the search. but the rescue expedition did not take place. The one who disappeared without a trace, so to say, was sitting by the campfire and eating buckwheat porridge with canned stew meat, tushonka in Russian. The guys and she herself said that she returned to the camp almost from the opposite direction, as if she had made a giant circle through the snow-covered forest. The culprit of the commotion, Tanya, explained that she fell into some kind of pit, breaking the tip of her ski, and then not finding her ski track. She got lost, but quickly went out. She was able to go out to the camp. When asked why she headed there, she could not really answer anything. Tanya's skis were missing almost 10 centimeters of a bent piece, and Victor, taking Psalomshikov by the hand, offered to go for it. They also walked no more than half a kilometer along Tanya's return ski trail and found that it ended in the same way. In this place, in the deep snow, it was perfectly visible how the girl was wallowing, trying to get to her feet. There was also a piece of ski broken on a stone. It turned out to be an absurd, impossible thing. Tanya fell off a ledge in a completely different place and fell in here, at least a kilometer in a straight line. Just in case, the guys walked around. There were no other tracks. You don't have to tell her anything about this, Victor told Psalomshikov on the way back. Otherwise, the girl will go crazy if she gets hung up on this. By the way, science fiction writers would say, nothing special, commonplace, teleportation. To be honest, Psalomshikov did not even hear about such a phenomenon in those years, but he agreed with Victor. Now, after graduating from the institute, Psalomshikov did not meet Tanya for almost 40 years, and only in the early 2000s, through the editorial office of the NLO magazine, he received a letter from her. Having become a regular reader of the magazine, she regularly saw his last name in it, and it was a very unusual last name, even for St. Petersburg, quite rare. When Psalomshikov met her, he reminded her of that long ago walk, and she honestly admitted that she had deliberately decided to get lost so that an upperclassman who liked her would go and find her. Well, that upperclassman had no such intentions in his mind, so while Psalomshikov was looking for the girl, the object of her size, so to say, and adoration was calmly eating porridge with stew meat. When she fell off the ledge, she was terribly scared, thinking that she was falling into some bottomless pit. Apparently, this fright became the starting impulse for teleportation. There's no explanation yet. There's no other explanation. Well, the Russian paranormal researcher I often talk about, and author of numerous books, Vadim Chernobrov, who passed away in 2017, told a very similar story based on the words of Professor Boris Ustinovich Rodionov. In the winter of 1979, his colleague Gleb, an employee of National Nuclear Research Institute, was skiing on a fresh snow through a well-known forest near Moscow outside of the city of Klimovsk. His friends were following him, and Gleb decided to prank them. He skied to a birch tree, took off one ski, and left a trail with it on the other side of the tree trunk. It looked funny. The tree stands in the middle, and the ski track bifurcates and wraps around it from two sides at the same time. And then Gleb skied a little further ahead and saw that he was not going where he was going at all. Deciding that he was a little lost, he made a detour of a couple of kilometers and came out on his old trail. He skied along it to a birch tree, passed between the legs, so to say, and not far from it, he saw that his former trail suddenly ends. This shocked the guy so much that he immediately returned home and never went back to that cursed place, as he called it, ever since. The guys from the Cosmopoisk Paranormal Research Organization met with him, found out the exact location of the anomalous zone or paranormal zone, and were going to examine it. Well, I do not know how it ended, but maybe someday I will find that Cosmopolis investigation report. Unfortunately, there are not that many such cases of teleportation with a happy ending. Many more. There are one side that tracks to nowhere, so to say, ending. The ski trail ends and human fate or human life ends with it. Russian author I've mentioned before a few times, Alexander Garbovsky, in his book Secret Power, Invisible Force, makes an extremely disappointing assumption on this occasion. With spontaneous teleportation, a disappeared or vanished person can appear anywhere in the Arctic ice, in the depths of the ocean, in other dimensions or worlds, and Solomshikov added, or maybe in another time. In this case, we can only state that the first act of the drama, for sure, that's known, is that the very disappearance of a person. The list of such disappearances occurring all over the world and in our country is long and is constantly being updated. Those are the words of Garbovsky, and in my videos you can find several about the teleportation cases that took place in the old Soviet Union, some experiments, and so forth. And of course, I'll bring you more stories. Russia is a vast country and it's surrounded by sizable countries like Ukraine, Kazakhstan, and they have their own cases. My job is to bring it to you. So please support me if you can through the links you'll find in the description to this video. Please check out my other videos. Like I said, like my videos, subscribe to my channel. Thank you for your attention to my work.